calm voice telling us to look not at screens or pills, but at strands of ancient grass. Archaeologists sifting through clay in a cave in Georgia found microscopic flax fibers dating back over 34,000 years. Our ancestors twisted those threads into ropes and clothing that allowed them to cross mountains and survive harsh winters. A single seed from that same plant, ground into meal or pressed for oil, fed families and lit lamps. In ancient Egypt, these fibers swaddled mummies and symbolized purity. Over millennia, plant fibers like flax, hemp, and jute were the fabric of daily life. They were not only woven into sails and tunics, but eaten as grains and vegetables. Today, when someone mentions fiber, they often think of breakfast cereal or supplements, not strands of wild plants woven into the very essence of culture. Yet, the health of your gut may be tied to the story of those fibers in ways most modern men have forgotten. We tend to imagine ancient diets as meat-heavy, but coprolites, fossilized feces, tell a different story. Studies of prehistoric coprolites reveal an astonishing intake of prebiotic fiber. In some regions, people ate an average of 150 to 225 grams of fiber per day. Hunter-gatherers in the northern Chihuahuan desert consumed around 135 grams of inulin-type fibers from agave, sotol, and prickly pear. Even the Hadza of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies, typically take in about 100 grams of fiber daily, 5 times more than the average American. They forage hundreds of plant species through the seasons, leaving little room for chronic diseases. In contrast, modern industrial diets provide only about 15 grams of fiber, mostly from grains, and many of us eat the same 20 to 50 plant species repeatedly out of the 20,000 edible species on Earth. This shrinkage isn't just culinary. It erodes the diversity of our gut microbiome, the trillions of microbes that help us digest, synthesize vitamins, and regulate our immune systems. Fiber isn't simply roughage. It's the substrate our internal ecosystems rely on. When we stop feeding them, entire species of gut bacteria go extinct. To understand why this matters, travel with me to a lab at the Ben Gurion University of the Negev. In 2024, scientists there identified new members of the human gut microbiome, cellulose-degrading bacteria named Ruminococcus hominiscens, R. primicians, and R. ruminiscens. These microbes produce complex enzyme assemblies called cellulosums that latch onto cellulose fibers, peel them apart like a rope, and convert them into soluble sugars. This engineering feat feeds the entire microbial community. But when researchers compared samples, they found these bacteria were abundant among ancient humans, hunter-gatherers, and rural populations, yet extremely rare in industrialized societies. In modern urban samples, the genes responsible for building cellulosums were virtually absent. That absence hints at an evolutionary tragedy. By abandoning fiber-rich diets, we have starved out microbes that once digested the toughest plant fibers. It's like losing the craftsman who knew how to unweave ropes because the ropes themselves disappeared. If our gut microbes rely on fibers that modern men no longer eat, what other ancient tools have we lost without noticing? Part of the story begins with domesticated animals. The Ruminococcus strains found in humans are more closely related to those in cows and sheep than to strains from our primate cousins. This suggests that early farmers acquired these fiber-degrading microbes from livestock they domesticated. For tens of thousands of years, humans, animals, and plants co-evolved, sharing microbes and meals rich in leaves, roots, and stems. Imagine a herder chewing on tough grass along with his goats. The same bacteria digesting cellulose in the goat's rumen took up residence in his gut. That exchange gave humans the ability to process the cellulose that makes up leaves and stalks. The discovery underscores how deeply entangled our diets, microbiomes, and environments once were. When we shifted from wild fiber plants to refined grains and sugars, we severed those relationships. Could the loss of microbes from our ancestors' livestock be one reason modern men struggle with obesity and inflammation? The evidence for this loss is not just genetic, it is visible in our stools. When researchers put volunteers on a true Paleolithic diet containing about 150 grams of fiber per day, rich in Brussels sprouts, okra, and legumes, the participants produced bowel movements exceeding 1 kilogram in weight. They also saw their LDL cholesterol drop by 33% within 2 weeks. By contrast, the average American bowel movement weighs just over 100 grams. According to Harvard Health Publishing, most American adults consume only 10 to 15 grams of fiber daily. The recommended intake is 25 to 30 grams for women and 30 to 38 grams for men. We fall short because popular low-carb diets and processed foods strip away the rough plant matter our guts evolved to handle. The result isn't merely constipation. Low fiber intake increases the risk of dying from heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and colon cancer. Each additional 8 grams of fiber reduces those risks by up to 27%. In other words, fiber is not optional. It's medicine disguised as food. But if fiber is so powerful, why don't we crave it the way we crave sugar or fat? Part of the answer lies in diversity. Ancient humans and today's hunter-gatherers consume hundreds of different plant species, each containing unique prebiotic fibers. Prebiotics, found in garlic, jicama, dandelion greens, onions, peas, broccoli, Jerusalem artichokes, and beans, feed beneficial gut bacteria. The Hadza microbiome is about 40% more diverse than that of the average American, and these communities experience almost none of the chronic diseases that plague Western societies. Fiber doesn't just add bulk. Different fibers foster different microbes, which in turn produce short-chain fatty acids that nourish colon cells, regulate blood sugar, and even influence mood. When we restrict ourselves to wheat flour, corn syrup, and potatoes, we starve entire microbial guilds. Over generations, the genes coding for cellulose digestion disappear. Researchers call it a microbial extinction event within our intestines. If entire species can vanish from our guts within a few generations, can they ever come back? There is hope. Studies show that eating more fiber can help reintroduce beneficial bacteria. In rural African villages, people still consume around 120 grams of prebiotic fiber per day. In parts of Mexico and Peru, ancient diets included large quantities of coarse plant materials. These diets supported rich microbial ecosystems that produced short-chain fatty acids linked to lower rates of colon cancer and better blood sugar control. Sarah Marias from Ben-Gurion University notes that fiber has been a mainstay of the human diet throughout evolution. It is also a main component of the diet of our primate ancestors. The missing bacteria can return when we feed them the substrates they need. The challenge is that many modern foods are stripped of their natural fibers. Flour is refined, skins are removed, and vegetables are processed. To repair the gut, we must seek out whole foods, oats, seeds, nuts, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, and eat them in their natural form. But the solution is not to gorge on supplements. Fiber supplements often provide only one type of fiber. They lack the diversity of whole foods and don't deliver the vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals that accompany plant fibers. Imagine going from 15 grams of fiber to 150 grams. How would your body react? The Functional Neurology Center suggests increasing fiber slowly to allow your gut to adapt. Doubling your intake overnight can cause bloating, gas, and discomfort. Start by adding 1 to 2 grams per day, and over several weeks, build toward 30 grams or more. Focus on prebiotic fibers mixed with a diverse array of produce. Some people may need to avoid certain legumes or nightshade vegetables due to lectins or immune reactions. Listen to your body But don't shy away from variety. Think of each plant species as a different note in a symphony played for your microbes. Here is the turning point of our story. The 2024 study by Ben-Gurion University and the Weizmann Institute did more than identify new bacterial species. It revealed that humans likely acquired cellulosum-producing microbes from livestock. These bacteria thrive in humans living traditional lifestyles but are sparse in urban populations. As we urbanize and abandon fiber-rich foods, we may be witnessing the extinction of microbial partners that have been with us since the dawn of agriculture. This is not just a metaphor. Genetic analyses show that cellulosum-producing genes have become rarer over generations. Without them, even if we eat more fiber, our guts may struggle to digest tough plant materials. The solution is urgent and twofold. We need to increase our fiber intake drastically, and we need to do so across generations so that parents can pass healthy microbial communities to their children. After all, infants acquire much of their microbiome from their mothers during birth and breastfeeding. If mothers lack certain microbes, their children will too. What happens to a species when it loses its symbiotic partners? We may be the first to find out, 1700 to 1900. Let's pull back and consider hemp. Hemp has been used for at least 8,000 years. Fragments of woven hemp fabric were discovered in ancient Mesopotamia, and by some estimates, 95% of seagoing vessels between 500 BCE and 1820 CE used hemp ropes and sails. Canvas itself derives from the Greek word for hemp. Hemp seeds and oil were foods and medicines, but as cotton and synthetic fibers took over, hemp cultivation dwindled. The result was not only the loss of a sustainable textile, but also less exposure to hemp seeds' omega-3s and fiber. Flax followed a similar trajectory. Once cultivated for both linen and seeds, it became just another oilseed crop. Yet flaxseed remains a potent superfood. It is rich in alpha-linolenic acid, lignans and fiber, and traditional medicines used. Flaxseed oil for digestive health. Consuming about 30 grams of ground flaxseed daily can modestly lower blood pressure, LDL, cholesterol, and inflammation. When we abandoned these dual-purpose plants wearing synthetic fabrics and eating processed oils, we lost both external and internal benefits. Could the decline of hemp and flax in our closets be mirrored by a decline in our intestines? Hermann Pontzer, an evolutionary anthropologist at Duke University, reminds us that there is no single, perfect diet. In his studies of 260 traditional populations, diets ranged from largely plant-based to meat-heavy. The common thread was high fiber intake. The Hadza consume roughly 100 grams of fiber a day, and yet include honey, a simple carbohydrate, as 15 to 20% of their calories. They are physically active and maintain stable body weights into old age. Pontzer points out that exercise does not significantly increase total energy expenditure. The body compensates elsewhere. Thus, diet, not exercise, controls weight. High fiber content is essential because it makes you feel full on fewer calories and feeds the gut. Fiber is the quiet hero in both the Hadza's robust health and our ancestors' resilience. Recognizing this can shift modern thinking. Instead of fearing carbohydrates, we should differentiate between refined sugars and complex fibers that our microbiome needs. If the Hadza thrive on honey and tubers, perhaps the villain in our diets isn't carbs, but the absence of fiber. So what can we do? The first step is to diversify your diet. Look beyond wheat and rice. Experiment with ancient grains like barley, millet, and teff. Incorporate leafy greens such as kale and dandelion greens. Root vegetables like Jerusalem artichokes and jicama. Beans, lentils, and peas. Seeds like chia, flax, and hemp. Many of these foods are rich in both soluble and insoluble fibers. Soluble fibers dissolve in water and help lower cholesterol and regulate blood sugar. Insoluble fibers pass through intact, adding bulk and preventing constipation. Both are important. Make fiber the foundation of your plate rather than an afterthought. As Harvard's nutrition source notes, children and adults need at least 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day for good health, but most Americans get only about 15 grams. Meeting the recommended amounts is a good start, but if you want to emulate ancestral diets, aim higher. Just increase slowly. Next, consider the bacteria themselves. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and kefir can introduce beneficial microbes, but they are not substitutes for fiber. Prebiotic fibers are the main food source for gut bacteria. Without them, probiotics pass through without colonizing. Think of your gut as a garden. Fiber is the soil and fertilizer. Microbes are the plants. No matter how many seeds you scatter, nothing will grow if the soil is barren. Thus, reintroducing fiber from a variety of plants sets the stage for microbial recolonization. Over time, as your microbiome diversifies, your body may become better at extracting nutrients and regulating inflammation. Many chronic conditions associated with aging heart disease, diabetes, obesity, arthritis have been linked to dysbiosis, an imbalance in the gut ecosystem. By restoring microbial diversity through fiber, you are not just improving digestion, you are influencing your systemic health. But fiber's influence reaches far beyond the colon. When gut bacteria ferment plant fibers, they produce short-chain fatty acids, acetate, propionate, and butyrate, compounds that regulate metabolism, cell differentiation, and gene expression. Butyrate, in particular, serves as fuel for colon cells and maintains the tight junctions of the intestinal lining. These SCFAs also act as anti-inflammatory signals. They modulate cytokine production and help keep the immune system in check. When fiber disappears from the diet, the microbial balance tilts. Opportunistic species of Escherichia, Shigella, and Klebsiella proliferate and release lipopolysaccharides, endotoxins that penetrate the gut wall and even increase the permeability of the blood-brain barrier. The immune system responds by sending distress signals through the vagus nerve and activating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, raising cortisol and other inflammatory mediators. Such neuroinflammation can alter microglia function and disturb neurotransmitters like serotonin. In plain terms, the fiber you feed your microbes may influence your mood, cognition, and resilience. Could your mood be a reflection of what your microbes are eating? Recognizing this gut-brain connection reframes fiber as more than roughage. A diet rich in diverse plant fibers supports the production of SCFAs that strengthen the gut barrier and modulate the immune system. These metabolites travel through the bloodstream and communicate with the brain, influencing hormones and neurotransmitters. When we deprive our microbiome of fiber, we invite dysbiosis, systemic inflammation, and potential mental health challenges. By cultivating a garden of varied fibers, roots, leaves, seeds, and fruits, we nourish not only our intestines, but also our minds. It's a reminder that the ancient threads we weave into our diets may be as important for psychological well-being as they are for physical health. We began with ancient threads flax twisted by Paleolithic hands and ended at the invisible fibers inside your colon. The connection is more than poetic. For tens of thousands of years, humans wove plant fibers into ropes and cloth while simultaneously consuming diverse plant foods rich in fiber. These practices co-evolved with a microbiome capable of turning cellulose into nourishing molecules. The Industrial Revolution replaced hemp sails with cotton and nylon, refined grains into white flour, and replaced fermentation with refrigeration. Modern men now wear synthetic shirts and eat processed meals, and their guts show the cost: a loss of microbial partners and a surge in lifestyle diseases. The solution is not a fad diet, but a return to diversity, both in what we wear and what we eat. By embracing ancient plant fibers, both tactile and edible, we can reconnect with the microbial symbiosis that once protected us. Perhaps the next time you slip on a linen shirt or add flaxseed to your morning porridge, you will remember that these fibers are threads in a much larger story. It's a story in which your gut and the plants around you are co-authors, and the next chapter is yours to write. And maybe, just maybe, by weaving those ancient fibers back into daily life, we will not only mend our digestion, but also ease our minds, brighten our moods, and rediscover the equilibrium that sustained our ancestors.